Number 10. UMIDA Nazarova. 21-year-old UMIDA Nazarova was excited when she found out she was pregnant, and she knew she would have to get a job that paid her more. In February 2022, she went to an interview at the Svarmet factory in Belarus. She had previous work experience as a shop assistant and was hoping to land a position at the facility, which produces welding wire and electrodes. A senior staff member was giving UMIDA a tour of the building when her long hair got caught in a machine. It became wrapped around her neck and started strangling her. She screamed out in excruciating pain as her scalp was ripped off her head. The employee who was showing her around had just looked away for a split second, but by the time she turned her attention back to UMIDA, the young woman was lying unconscious on the floor. She never regained consciousness and died 20 days later in the hospital. The terrible accident had claimed the lives of both a young mom-to-be and her unborn baby. The factory did pay for UMIDA's funeral, but for her grieving parents, it will never be enough. They accused the company of safety violations, wondering why not a single person offered UMIDA something to cover her hair with when she was so close to dangerous machinery. Number 9. Hateful hammer attack. 2 years after moving to New York City, a 31-year-old Asian woman was randomly attacked. It occurred amid a noticeable increase of racist attacks against people of Asian descent. It happened early last year in Manhattan's Hell's Kitchen neighborhood near Times Square. Surveillance footage shows her walking down the sidewalk with another Asian woman at about 8:40 p.m. Then, from out of nowhere, they were accosted from behind by a mad woman. They had no idea who this woman was or why she was demanding that they remove their masks. But before they had a chance to respond or do anything, she hit one of them in the head with a hammer. Then the attacker fled the scene just as quickly as she arrived. The victim was treated at the hospital for a head laceration. She later told NBC News that she was shocked by the attack and that nothing like this had ever happened to her before. A week later, police arrested a 37-year-old homeless woman named Ebony Jackson in connection with the incident. She was charged with 2 counts of felony assault, 2 counts of felony criminal possession of a weapon with a previous conviction, and menacing. Number 8. ERICK MACIEL. When single mother Tiger Jackson met registered nurse ERICK MACIEL on a dating app in 2016, she initially didn't think they clicked very well. But she decided to give the relationship a shot, and soon things got serious enough for the couple to move in together. They had been dating and living together for around 6 or 7 months when Tiger had a change of heart due to Maciel's obsessive and controlling nature. She decided she wanted out of the relationship and had a friend go with her to get her things out of the place she lived in with him. While the women were gathering Tiger's personal belongings, Maciel asked her if they were really done. She later told local station KESQ that when she said yes, he got a crazy look in his eye. He pulled 2 screwdrivers out of his pocket and began viciously attacking her friend with them. Maciel then turned his attention toward Tiger, who was trying to get out the front door. He grabbed her by the back of the head and shoved the screwdriver into her mouth, knocking one of her teeth loose. According to court testimony, Tiger ran out the back door and tried escaping through a side gate, but she couldn't get away from Maciel, who caught up with her and stabbed her in the throat, ear, and left eye with the screwdriver. Her friend managed to flag down help from a mail carrier who jumped the wall surrounding the yard and pounced on Maciel's back right as he was exiting the house with more screwdrivers in hand. Maciel barricaded himself inside and threatened suicide. A 3-hour standoff with law enforcement ensued before he was safely taken into custody. Both victims were seriously injured. Tiger underwent brain surgery to remove the screwdriver that he had plunged through her eye socket and was left deaf in one ear and with lasting injuries. She's also emotionally traumatized from the experience. MACIEL blamed the attack and his controlling nature on his steroid use, claiming that the drugs made him hyper-aggressive and extremely paranoid. A jury found him guilty of 2 counts of attempted voluntary manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 18 years and 4 months behind bars, as well as life with the possibility of parole. Number 7. Freak belt sander accident. In what can only be described as pretty much every man's worst fear, a young Australian tradesman was taken to the hospital after getting his genitals stuck in a belt sander in 2019. The 18-year-old was at his work site in the North Shore Sydney suburb of Mossman when his pants got caught in the machine. He was quickly taken to a nearby hospital with the sander still attached to his body. Medical staff carefully removed it and found that the mishap had ripped his privates, leaving him with lacerations. The young man was discharged, and it was unclear whether he would suffer from any lasting damage. Tragically, he's not the only person that this kind of horrific worksite accident has happened to. Last year, a Redditor going by the handle U27Throwaway2000 posted in a forum about how his pants got caught in a belt sander at his job while he was leaning over to pick something up off the ground. The man didn't realize how close he was to the machine's exposed spinning belt until it was too late. By the time he hit the off switch, it had completely shredded part of his genitals, requiring a partial amputation. He noted in the comment thread that he had more or less come to terms with the depressing situation and was lucky enough to be able to function properly with what he had left. Number 6. Stephen POFF. Police in Racine, Wisconsin, recently received an early morning call about a man who allegedly broke through his neighbor's wall and into their apartment. An officer reported to the scene and spoke with the horrified victim, who said that he was at home when the man next door, 38-year-old Stephen A. POFF, suddenly broke through the drywall between their apartments using a pitchfork. The suspect is accused of climbing through the hole he created and then challenging his neighbor to a fight. A struggle ensued between the two, and the man who was attacked sat on POFF to restrain him. He released POFF in hopes that the intruder would leave the apartment, but he instead went into the kitchen. At that point, the victim summoned the police. POFF appeared sweaty and agitated, according to the officer who had spoken with him. He was covered in white dust, but initially claimed he didn't know where the hole in the wall came from. When police found a pitchfork in the suspect's bedroom, he reportedly admitted to making the hole and said that his crew made him do it. POFF was charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of bail jumping, along with criminal damage to property and disorderly conduct. Number 5. John Morgan. John Morgan was with a group of people who went back to a woman's house one night in 2020 after drinking at a pub in the English town of South Ockenden. Things were fine at first, but the situation eventually turned sour, and Morgan began verbally abusing and threatening the host. She ordered the man to leave, grabbing a hammer off a table and holding it up to show just how serious she was. Instead of leaving, Morgan stood up and punched the woman in the face, and she fell to the ground. The noise woke up her father, who came downstairs to see what on earth was going on. He tried pushing Morgan away from his daughter, at which point he became the target of the man's rage. Morgan grabbed the hammer and struck the woman's dad at least 3 times with it, leaving him with a fractured skull, serious lacerations, and a broken arm. Before he left the scene, Morgan reportedly told the woman that she had gotten what she deserved. And so did he, when a judge sentenced him to 12.5 years behind bars for the brutal attack, as well as 3.5 years of probation. Number 4. ABDIAZIZ HUSSEIN. One morning in late January of 2022, a public work crew in Lewiston, Maine, noticed a man walking down the street carrying his own severed arm, which had been cut off at the shoulder and was bleeding profusely. Two arborists who were working nearby applied a tourniquet to the badly injured man, who was later identified as 25-year-old ABDIAZIZ HUSSEIN. Witnesses told police that he had lost his arm in a mishap with a bandsaw that was used for cutting meat at a local store, indicating that he had been in a workplace accident. Investigators reviewed the gruesome surveillance footage and conducted interviews and learned that Hussein didn't even work at the business where the saw is located. They determined that his injury was most likely self-inflicted. Hussein is lucky to be alive thanks to the Good Samaritans who administered first aid before emergency responders arrived. According to the last update, the investigation into the disturbing incident had been suspended, and Hussein was still receiving treatment for his injury. It's still unclear why he was operating the saw, or whether surgeons were able to reattach his arm. Number 3. Brenda McLaughlin. On the early morning of May 5, 2018, police were flagged down near a nightclub in County Tyrone, Ireland, where they found a woman lying on the sidewalk. Her head was bleeding, she was in and out of consciousness, and she was suffering from seizures. Someone had viciously attacked 38-year-old Brenda McLaughlin with a cordless power drill, leaving her with life-threatening injuries. She told officers that she believed she was targeted because she's a lesbian. At the hospital, she told staff that she could hear the sound of the drill and felt her head being twisted during the ghastly assault. Witnesses named a 17-year-old male as the suspect, and police soon determined that both he and McLaughlin had been at the same nightclub earlier that same evening. Detectives accused the young man of stealing the power drill from the club, charged him with having an offensive weapon and unlawfully and maliciously causing grievous bodily harm. In court, the teen claimed that he had no ill will toward McLaughlin and that he had gay family members, but the judge didn't buy it and ordered for the suspect to be held in custody until his next hearing. Luckily, doctors determined that McLaughlin suffered no brain damage and that her injuries weren't as critical as they had initially seemed, even though they were still very serious. Number 2. Hammer-wielding Karen. A woman who lives in the Chatsworth neighborhood of Los Angeles found herself in the spotlight of a supremely embarrassing act of vandalism in 2020 after she damaged her neighbor's car in a fit of rage. Footage captured from outside the vehicle by its owner shows the woman furiously hitting the vehicle with 2 hammers and yelling at the neighbor to get the bleep out of the neighborhood and to go ahead and call the police. And that's exactly what the victims did. In the meantime, the hammer-wielding resident, whom the neighbors described as racists, took the hammers to their recycling bin and yelled at them to go back to Mexico. Police arrested the woman, but she was released the very next day due to COVID-19 rules dictating little to no bail for suspects accused of minor offenses. As the disturbing video went viral, the car's owner let the public know that his insurance doesn't cover vandalism damage. A crowdfunding campaign was started and quickly garnered thousands of dollars in donations so that he could pay for the damage caused in the totally unprovoked attack. Number 1. Shawn HYNES. 21-year-old Nalanla Dlamini endured weeks of racist bullying from her co-worker, Shawn HYNES, at their construction job in Nova Scotia. One day in 2018, HYNES accused Dlamini of working too slowly and then shot a nail at him using a nail gun. The 3.5-inch, 8.9-centimeter projectile struck Dlamini in the back and punctured his lung, requiring emergency surgery. He spent 4 agonizingly long days in the hospital. Dlamini accused HYNES of routinely tormenting him on the worksite, often throwing nails at him, making racist remarks, striking his foot with a hammer, and even stapling his jacket to a staircase. Prosecutors charged HYNES with criminal negligence, causing bodily harm, and assault with a weapon. HYNES claimed that he had fired a nail into Dlamini's back by accident. He said that the nail ricocheted off a wall before it hit the young man. but a judge sentenced him to 18 months, 12 of which would be served under house arrest. The seemingly light sentence angered community members who felt that the case should have been prosecuted as a hate crime. In his victim impact statement, Dlamini spoke of how the incident destroyed the sense of safety and security he had found in Nova Scotia after moving there from South Africa, where violence is common. Thanks for watching. Would you rather accidentally drop a soldering iron on your bare foot, or have a thief run off with your groceries while you're loading them into your car? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.